Buddha's equanimity isn't acceptance. 3 types of equanimity. When I was in Portland this last week, there were a lot of questions on equanimity. They seem to stem from the idea that many people see equanimity as apathy, indifference. But when you look at the Buddha's life, he was in no way indifferent or apathetic. His sense of equanimity was more a matter of keeping the mind on an even keel in the midst of the ups and downs of life. And it's important to note that when the Buddha taught equanimity, he didn't teach it as a single member of a list. It was always part of a list that had other members, other qualities, and it takes up some features of the qualities it's listed with. There are 3 main contexts in which he teaches equanimity. The first, of course, is equanimity in the Brahmaviharas. This is the equanimity that realizes how even though you may have goodwill for all beings and compassion and empathetic joy, it's not the case that everybody's going to be happy or that they will be as happy as quickly as you might like. And there are times when, no matter how much goodwill you have for somebody, there's still going to be some suffering. That's when you have to develop equanimity, to realize that certain things simply will not go in line with your wishes. You want things to go well, both for yourself and for others, but you run up against a brick wall. This doesn't mean that you give up. It means that you look instead for the areas where you can make a difference. So the basic motivation for this kind of equanimity is the desire for happiness coupled with the realization that it's not going to happen all the time or as quickly as you like or in the areas where you might want. This is like the equanimity of a doctor. A person with an illness comes to the doctor. The doctor wants to help. He does his best, but then he'll run into areas where he can't make any difference for the patient. So instead of getting upset about the areas where he can't make a difference, he focuses on the areas where he can. So that's one kind of equanimity, the equanimity in the Brahmaviharas, the equanimity of a doctor. Another kind of equanimity occurs in the context of the Buddha's teachings on concentration practice. It's there in the 4th jhana, and it's one of the 7 factors for awakening. There it's related to the Buddha's instructions to Rahula when he first started meditating. He said, "Make your mind like earth. Nice things and disgusting things are thrown on the earth, but the earth doesn't react." Now this is a first step in the meditation. The Buddha went on to teach breath meditation, which was actually very proactive. It's not that you just sit there and try to maintain the state of non-reactivity, accepting everything that comes up. That's not the Buddha's approach to meditation at all. There was an interview I saw on French TV recently, where the woman being interviewed was saying that the Buddha's wisdom is all about accepting things as they are and not trying to make any changes, accepting the fact that any changes you try to make are just going to make things worse. The interviewer asked the woman who was saying this, "Isn't that defeatist? Isn't it pessimistic?" And the woman being interviewed said, "Only if you think about it." Well, the Buddha was not the sort of person who wouldn't think about things. He thought a lot, and about a lot of things, and especially about when and where it's possible to get things under your control so that you can make a positive difference. When you're meditating, you really are trying to get the mind under your control. You're trying to make a difference. Mindfulness is a governing principle that underlies concentration practice, and it has a task that it keeps in mind: to try to give rise to skillful qualities and try to maintain them. In other words, you don't just watch them coming and going. You try to make them come and then prevent them from going. But to be a good meditator, you have to have a certain evenness of mind so that you don't force things unskillfully, and so that when things do go well, you don't just jump at them. You've probably had that experience where the mind settles down, everything's really nice, and you get really excited, and of course, that ruins it. Or things go really well, and then they suddenly don't go well, and you get upset. Well, neither response is right. When things go well, you have to figure out, how do I maintain this? When they don't go well, how can I get the good things back? That requires an evenness of mind. You might say it's like the equanimity of a hunter. The hunter has to go out and wait for the rabbit. If he gets excited when the rabbit comes, then the rabbit will sense his presence and will run away. Or if he shoots the rabbit and misses and gets upset about that, he's not going to have a second chance. So as you're meditating, you're trying to develop the equanimity of a hunter. Good and bad things are going to come. Good and bad things are going to go. You have to learn to tell yourself, oh, there's this. And then when you notice there's this, good or bad, then the next question is, what do you do with it? Try not to get excited. Try not to get upset so that you can really master this as a skill. That's the second kind of equanimity. Equanimity in the practice of concentration, the equanimity of a hunter. Then there's equanimity in the context of the perfections. The major perfection is the perfection of determination. You've made up your mind, you've got a goal, and you do everything you can to go for that goal, which involves developing all the other perfections. This will entail doing certain things you don't like doing, and giving up certain things that you'd prefer to hold on to. In addition, there will be long fallow periods when things are not going well, and you have to maintain your good spirits and not get upset by your setbacks. You have to be able to maintain a strong sense of the direction you want to go in without giving up. This is the equanimity of a warrior who realizes there are going to be some battles you're going to lose, but you can't get upset about those. You take them in stride and learn whatever lessons you can from your defeats so that you can win the war. John Lee talks a lot about this in the context of what they call the worldly dhammas: gain, loss, status, loss of status, praise, criticism, pleasure, pain. As he points out, we'd always like the good side, the gain, the status, the praise, and the pleasure. But the good side is not always good for us. Status can go to our heads. Praise can go to our heads. People tend to forget themselves when the see a more good side comes up. At the same time, there are lots of good lessons you can learn when things are not so good. When there's material loss and loss of status, you learn who your true friends are. When there's criticism, you have an opportunity to learn. If the criticism is true, it's helping you because it's pointing out an area where you may have become complacent. As for praise, you have to watch out for that, because sometimes you have to wonder, why are people praising you? What do they want out of you? You have to be a little bit leery of what you think is a good side and not so quick to get upset about the bad side. This is what keeps you going, realizing that not every setback is permanent. There are ways around it, so you keep coming back. That's the equanimity of a warrior. So, the Buddha's equanimity is the opposite of apathy and indifference. It's equanimity that allows you to attain your goals wisely and to not suffer in the process, which is why equanimity is contained in so many different lists. It's the grounding quality that keeps the mind on an even keel, enabling it to see things clearly that it otherwise might miss if it was getting excited or upset about things going or not going the way you wanted them to. It's a quality we should develop in all those different contexts, as one of the Brahmaviharas, as a component of meditation, and as a perfection, as a way of strengthening ourselves so that we can reach the goal that we want. That's the other aspect of equanimity that's sometimes misunderstood. The idea that equanimity means not having any goals and being content with the ways things are. Well, yes, the Buddha taught contentment with material things, your physical situation, but he taught discontent with regard to skillful qualities. In other words, as long as there's still suffering or stress, even the slightest bit in the mind, you can't rest content with the level of your mental skills. There's got to be some way around that problem, some new good quality to develop, and you have to maintain your determination to see it through. So you want to develop the equanimity of a good doctor or nurse, of a good hunter, of a good warrior, which is the opposite of being defeatist. After all, the Buddha called his path unexcelled victory in battle, and he compared himself to a doctor. I don't know of any places where he compared himself to a hunter, but his equanimity covered all three of the sorts that those three types of people have. The equanimity that doesn't give up. 2 days ago, someone came to me and asked for a birthday blessing. The blessing I chose was, "May you have the strength to deal with whatever comes up." And she looked disappointed. She said, "Can't you wish for me to be happy all year round?" And I said, "I can't promise that. You're in the wrong world. We live in a world where there's gain and there's loss, status, loss of status, praise, criticism, pleasure, pain. A world where things go well and things go not so well. And to simply want nothing but the good stuff is very unrealistic, which means that we need to have the strength to deal with the bad stuff when it comes." I've been reading a lot of biographies of French figures, and I've found that the ones that I admire the most are the ones who face some really difficult situations. And they know that it could be the end of them, and yet they don't let their worries overcome them. They do worry, but there's part of the mind that says, well, whatever happens, I'm going to try to be able to deal with it. There must be a way out. In many cases, the situation looked really bleak, and yet they were able to find a way out. Talleyrand was one. The French Revolution began. People like him were getting their heads cut off, and he managed to get out of France with permission from the government. It was because he used his ingenuity. So, this is one of the things that helps us deal with situations as they come up, the confidence that there must be a way out. I'm not going to let it go past and say, well, I didn't try. If it turns out there's no way out, well, at least you tried. That's the kind of equanimity you want to develop. There are two kinds of equanimity. There's the kind that says, okay, I'm just going to be okay with whatever comes up and stay there. That kind of equanimity can sap your strength and make you say, well, I don't know if it's going to be worth the effort to make any changes, so I'll just learn how to accept things as they are. And all too often that's portrayed as what the Buddha taught. I saw an interview one time with a teacher who was saying just that the practice is all about learning just to go with the flow and not to try to make any changes in life. Just be equanimous about everything. The interviewer asked the teacher, "Isn't that defeatist?" And the teacher said, "Well, only if you think about it," which is pretty sad. Are we supposed to not think? Of course we're supposed to think. The Buddha thought a lot. He set down guidelines for how to think. He didn't say not to think. He said to think in terms of appropriate attention, to think in terms of the Four Noble Truths. Ask yourself questions as to what's skillful and what's not. Put things to the test, evaluate them. There's a lot of thinking in following the path. So we're not trying to cut off our brains and just say, okay, well, I'll be like a vegetable and accept whatever sun or rain comes my way. The equanimity of the Buddha is the equanimity that says, things may be going poorly, but I'm not going to let that sap my strength. I'm going to figure out what can be done here. Simply accept the fact that things go well sometimes and not so well other times, and look inside to find strength in either situation. That's strong equanimity, or the equanimity of strength, which means, of course, that if you're going to develop that kind of equanimity, you have to strengthen yourself. First, through conviction, that if there's going to be a way out, it's going to depend on your actions. And then, through persistence, just keeping at it regardless. Once you're confident that you're on the right path, and what path could be better than the path that says to look at your actions and see where they're skillful, look and see where they're not skillful, encourage the skillful ones and abandon the unskillful ones. It's a path where you're made responsible, so it's a good path to be on. So once you have confidence in the path, just stick with it. Ajahn Mahabhuwa talks about how when he was first getting started in meditation practice, he noticed that his mind was going in cycles. He would progress for a while, the concentration would get better, and then it would regress. And then it would progress again, and then it would regress. The problem was that he started anticipating the regress, and sure enough, it would come. So finally, he decided, this is ridiculous. Just stick with the path, make the causes good. And as for whether the mind is going to go in cycles or not, don't pay attention to that. Just stick with the good causes. And that got him past that self-imposed cycle. So, this is the kind of equanimity you want, based on conviction, persistence, and then mindfulness, always remembering what's the appropriate thing to do. Remember to recognize unskillful qualities as they come up in the mind. Recognize anxiety when it's skillful, and recognize anxiety when it's unskillful. There is skillful anxiety, you know? It's otapa, or compunction, combined with heedfulness. In other words, you realize, there's work to be done, or else I'll keep creating more suffering, and I can't sit around not doing the work, because I don't know how much time I've got left. The anxiety part is in the thought, I don't know how much time I've got left. But you do know you have right now, so don't throw away right now over your worries about what's going to happen down the line. You've got this moment. Make the most of it. That's when you focus your anxiety in a way that actually becomes something skillful, compunction combined with heedfulness. So remember what's unskillful in the mind. Remember what's skillful. You've got lots of voices in the mind that sound very much like you because they have been you at different times in the past. Simply learn to recognize which ones in there you can actually trust. All too often, we focus on the negative ones, thinking, well, they're the ones telling the truth, while the positive ones are kind of out of touch with reality. You have to ask yourself, who are your friends? The ones who try to destroy your practice? Or the ones trying to encourage it? This is a truth of the will that we're developing here. There are truths of the observer that simply watch, where your desire for something to be one way or another can't be allowed to get in the way. You have to simply look at the facts. But there are other truths that happen only if you want them enough and then act on that desire in a skillful way. You won't become an artist unless you want to become an artist. You won't succeed at accomplishing something unless you stick with the desire to keep at the causes. The path is a truth of the will. So the voices that encourage that kind of truth, that say you do have the potential, you do have what it takes within you to follow this path, those are the voices you listen to. You remember that. Then, based on mindfulness, when it's done properly, you get into concentration, and that's even more strengthening. You actually begin to see the results. The mind can settle down, and there's a sense of well-being where you can observe the mind very clearly and feel at home here. And whether it's jhana or not, jhana doesn't matter. The fact that the mind is settled is what matters. You want the mind to be clear and mindful, alert. So as the concentration develops, you can ask yourself, what here in the concentration is a disturbance? What can I let go? That lightens the burden of the concentration and actually makes it more solid once you've let it go. That way, you've got concentration working together with discernment. All of these qualities, conviction, persistence, mindfulness, concentration, and discernment, are strengths. They strengthen your equanimity so that it does become that second kind, the kind that's willing to face the fact that there are difficulties, things aren't going the way I want them to go. There are setbacks, but I'm not going to let that become an excuse not to practice. I'm going to make them reasons for practicing harder and with more ingenuity. You've got to have confidence that, yes, you do have the resources, because after all, this is a path that many people have followed in the past, people of all kinds. They were able to do it, they're human beings, you're a human being, you can do it too. The equanimity that allows for that thought keeps the practice going. It doesn't get knocked around by setbacks. That's the kind of equanimity you want to develop. Remember the story of the Zen master whose student was going to come out to LA and try his hand at the entertainment industry. The Zen master asked the student when the student came to say goodbye, "What will you do if they knock you down?" The student said, "Well, I guess I'll have to accept that." And the teacher said, "No, they knock you down, you get up. They knock you down again, you get up again." That's the kind of equanimity you want in the practice. The equanimity that doesn't take defeat as the final word and doesn't get upset saying, "Gee, this human realm should have been perfect, everything should go well." Or the attitude that says, "If there's a setback, well, I'll just learn how to accept that and give up." That's not equanimity, that's defeatism. The Buddha wasn't a defeatist, and neither was his equanimity. His was the sort of equanimity that realizes we live in a world where we've made mistakes in the past, so we're going to have to be dealing with the results of those mistakes, but we can learn from them, and we can work to get past them. It requires a certain amount of equanimity to admit the fact that you've made a mistake, to recognize the mistake, not to hide it from yourself, but then not let it defeat you. And that's the equanimity that'll see you through. Equanimity as a skill. You'll notice in the chant we had just now on the 4 sublime attitudes, "May all beings be happy. May all beings be freed from their suffering. May all beings not be deprived of the good fortune they have attained." It's may. But then the 4th one is not like that. It's a statement of fact. All living beings are the owners of their actions. When I was in France this last month, I came across the French translation of the Sublime Attitudes in the chanting book that the group there had put together, and they'd missed that point. Their translation of equanimity was, "May all beings be the owners of their actions, heirs to their actions." It sounds like a curse. We're not wishing that on anybody. We're simply accepting that that's the way things are. We live by our actions. Our actions shape our lives. But it's interesting to note that the reflection on karma is used not only for equanimity, but also for gaining a sense of confidence that there is a way out and we can do it through our actions. This connects with the fact that equanimity is not something to develop on its own. The Buddha never recommended developing equanimity as a single practice. It's always in conjunction with other good qualities of mind. And the purpose in each list of those qualities is not just to stop at equanimity. This is one of the misunderstandings that comes from looking at the list of the 4 sublime attitudes, the 7 factors for awakening, even the 10 perfections. They all end with equanimity, which makes it sound like this is where we're going. But that's not the case. It's meant to take you beyond itself, and to do so, you have to develop equanimity in conjunction with the other factors in the lists, keeping in mind the principle of karma, that there are certain things that, based on past actions, you can't change. But you have to remember that in the teaching on karma, not everything in the present moment is determined by the past. You're making choices in the present as well, and there are important areas where they can make a difference. Remember that discussion the Buddha had with some Niganthas, a sect that existed in his time. They believed that everything in the present moment was shaped by the past, and they endured self-torture to burn off their past karma. The Buddha asked them, "Have you ever noticed that this pain you feel during your tortures ends when you stop doing the torture?" In other words, the pain is not coming only from the past. It can also come from things you're doing right now. What you're doing right now is something you can't be equanimous about. You have to be equanimous about the fact that there is a pattern for cause and effect. You do certain things and certain results will come. That's something you've got to accept. But then you have the choice as to what kind of things you want to do, based on the results you're looking for from those actions. Like right now, you're making a choice. You're going to focus on your breath. How you focus on the breath will make a difference for the whole hour. If there are some pains in the body that come from past actions, past injuries, you work around them. You find areas in the body that are not in pain. You focus there. Think of good breath energies nourishing those parts of the body, strengthening those parts of the body, and then spreading from there to go through the pains, at the very least to relax some of the tension around the pains. But you have the choice of where you're going to focus your attention right now and what you're going to do with what you're finding in the here and now. So when we think of equanimity in terms of karma, it doesn't just leave you there where you are. It focuses your attention on what you can do. When I was in Paris one evening toward the end of my stay, I was standing on the sidewalk in front of the hotel, waiting for a ride. I suddenly realized this was my first time in the country without a translator around. What would I do if someone came up and asked me a question and exposed my awful French? Well, sure enough, there was a telephone lineman working across the street. He saw me and came across the street saying, "Marvelous, marvelous. You're just the person I want to see. I've got a miserable job. I'm surrounded by dishonest people," he said. "How can I find happiness in life? How can I find peace in life?" So I talked to him about generosity, virtue, meditation. How do you meditate? I gave him the address for the website. He seemed pleased, shook my hand, and went back to work. The irony was that night, I was going to give a talk at a Vipassana center on the topic of how the present moment is not the goal, how we're not here simply to accept what's happening in the present moment and to try to be happy with that. So I told them the story of the lineman. I mentioned that if I had told him, well, to be happy, just learn how to accept, be equanimous about your miserable job and your dishonest friends, he would have had the good sense to walk away. The Buddha never told us just to sit there and accept things. You accept the way things function in terms of your actions, and then you train the mind to use that principle of cause and effect to create a path. Equanimity is part of that path, but it's not the whole path, and it's not the goal. Recently, I heard of a monk trained in the forest tradition saying that equanimity was the goal and that we're here to arrive at right view, accepting the fact that everything is inconstant, arises and passes away, and to stop at being okay with that, which is appalling. The Buddha never taught that, nor did the great Ajahns. His images, their images, for people on the path are never images of people who just sit back and accept. They're people who are searching, people engaged in a battle, people trying to develop skills. Now, equanimity has a role in developing a skill. It has a role in battles. It has a role in searches. If you're searching for something, you look and look and look, and when you don't find it where you think it should be, you accept that fact, and then you go and look for it someplace else. If you're in a battle and there are setbacks, you accept the fact that there are setbacks, but you don't let them defeat you. You work your way around them. When you're developing a skill, you use equanimity to look at the results of what you're doing, to watch your actions, to look at the results, and if the results aren't satisfactory, you accept that fact and then go back and change your actions to be better. Equanimity is selective. For instance, right now, things outside you put aside. Issues in your home, people for whom you're responsible, you just put them aside for the time being. Focus on your own mind, but remind yourself that you're doing this in a way that doesn't benefit only you. You're getting your mind under control, and you can develop qualities of discernment, mindfulness, and alertness to learn how to put aside your greed, aversion, and delusion. When you can do that, you benefit, and the people around you will benefit too. This is a part of your motivation for being here, that it's going to be better for the people around you. Your equanimity for those people at the moment is what allows you to develop the skill you need right now. So that's one function of equanimity, to put anything that's not related to what you're doing right now out of your mind. It's not your business right now. Then, of course, the second function is to look at what you're doing. Are you getting the results you want? If you're not, you can ask yourself, what could I change? The spot I focus on? The way I breathe? The way I conceive of the breath? Should I learn how to think of the breath as energy? Learn to see your sense of the body as you feel it from within as all energy. It's all breath. As you breathe in, there are no hard spots or solid spots that you have to push the breath through. You're simply allowing more energy to come suffusing into your energy field. Good energy comes in, bad energy goes out. There are lots of ways you can change the way you relate to the breath in the present moment, the way you understand the breath in the present moment, what you do with the breath in the present moment. Equanimity is there to judge the results, to look fairly and objectively at what's going on so that you can be more effective in making changes. So with equanimity, we accept the principle of karma, that actions have results in line with the quality of the intention. That means you have to learn the pattern of which intentions work well and which ones don't. But then it leaves open the possibility that you can master that pattern and use it for the sake of what you want, true happiness, because that's what the goal of the practice is. We're not here to arrive at equanimity. We're here to arrive at the ultimate happiness. Equanimity, as part of the path, helps get you there. But it's not the whole path, and it's not the essence of where we want to go. Always keep these points in mind so that you can develop the skillful kind of equanimity that helps you. Stay away from the unskillful kinds, the kinds that are lazy or defeatist, or, in a John Fuang's terminology, the small-hearted equanimity that just gets depressed and gives up. Those are not the equanimities that the Buddha was teaching. He was teaching large-hearted equanimity, in a John Fuang's phrase, that has space for the effort that needs to be put into the practice. And happiness is going to result, both along the way and when you arrive at the goal.